What is up, Internet world, and welcome back to Accelerate. I'm Mike, he's Ian, and today we bring you the Civic Type R. Now, we've already reviewed its competitor, the Elantra N, which is a sedan. And at first glance, this looks like a sedan. It's got 4 doors, but this part is where it's different. The Elantra is an actual trunk, and this is a hatchback, so it makes it pretty compelling, this Civic Type R. Now, we've also reviewed its base format, the 11th generation regular Civic, so we have some familiarity with what this car is going to offer us. We've done the Civic, and we've done the Integra Type S. So we're going to talk about the front, the side, the back, the interior, and of course, get behind the wheel and take it for a rip. All right, Civic Type R, 315 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. I'm in plus R mode, 3,500 RPM, and let's launch this bad boy. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. 5.55555. Okay, I think we do a little bit better than that, Mikey boy. Let's do this thing. All right, come on, Civic Type R. A little bit better than 5.5, and a little bit. Is that quicker? 5.38. Okay, it's a tad bounce off the rev limiter. Let's try one more time here. So they locked this rev limiter at like 3,400 RPM. So I've got to hold at 3,400 RPM and then slowly ride this clutch a little bit. Okay, it's slower. 5.49. Okay, so basically 5.5 seconds is what I can get this thing to be. Pretty good. I mean, it's hard to tell. To be honest, it's hard to tell. Look, when I used to have an Integra Type R, I used to strip the car. I used to take every single tiny thing out of this car, even bolts. So we used to go to the track, take a 10 mil, because it's a Honda, and you could take half this car apart. We take off everything. We took out the passenger seat, we took out the back seats, we took out the bottom back of the seats. We took every single part we could out of the car just to get a bit faster. To get as close as we can to the 13-second mark in the quarter mile was like a dream to me. Now, if I did that today and did the 0-60, I'm sure it would get like 6.8 seconds or 6.5 seconds. I'd be super excited about my Type R being super quick. Maybe low 6s, but definitely not 5.5 seconds. That's really quick, but we're so used to cars that are 5s now that we're like, meh, it's 5, doesn't mean anything, let's get 4. Like, these numbers just don't mean anything, and we're just really losing sight of what excitement should be, because excitement happens when you turn, like right now. Oh, this is what I love. Oh my God. Just throwing this thing, having a go-kart, like nothing is more exciting than whipping a car around a corner and just having it like a go-kart. Oh man, this car is way more fun than driving a Tesla around a corner. Teslas are okay, but there's just no soul behind it. This thing just hops, bunny hops, and whips and chains and all that fun stuff. Now, the Civic Type R has a starting price of around $45,000 with destination fee included, but people cannot buy one for that price. This thing sells a hell of a lot more when it comes to dealer markups and people just buying it and reselling it. This is a hot commodity. It's actually $7,000 less for the same sort of spec than its brother, the Integra Type S. So I understand why people want this car. It's heavily sought after. And that's why it took us 6 months to actually get one in physical form. So, yep, she's hot. So let's talk about the front here. It looks obviously like a Civic, but all the stuff added to it, like the black front grille, the red Honda badge, the cutouts in the vents up here on the hood. Then you have the Type R badging, and of course, more fancy honeycomb on the bottom. Then you have piano black on the bottom, including, of course, functional vents, because this is a Type R. Honda's definitely not making this Japan-built spec Type R in Japan and leaving gaps that aren't functional. The engine's made in Ohio though. You see that red engine cover? It was never like this. The old Type Rs used to have a red valve cover, which means it was actually steel. It was like not part of the block, but it was part of the valve cover on top. It actually wasn't aesthetic. It was part of what the engine was. This is just a piece of plastic. So in my opinion, this is not as good as the old stuff. The side of the Civic, it's wide body and it's sick. I love it in this color. I'll assume that it's championship white because that's all I know when I think about sporty Hondas. As far as wheels go, these are 19s and they are beautiful. I love the design of these wheels and I love the red Honda badge in the center. Of course, you got Brembos and you do have a stance that sits 1.1 inches lower than a regular Civic. However, this generation of new Type R is actually half an inch wider in terms of track compared to the old generation. And standing here, you can see how wide this front fender is, including the back one. You can see they're both wide body and it looks totally sick. Now moving back from there, you'll wonder why this does not have a sunroof, and that is because of course weight. As this weighs 3,188 pounds, 3,188 versus the Integra weighs 3,219 pounds. That's a little bit more luxurious. This is a little bit more sporty. No sunroof on this guy. As far as trim goes, of course, you have piano black up here and then piano black all on the bottom. That does flare out to give the wind a little bit of action when it's sliding through the side. And if you wonder how it gets there, well, it also flows right here. So it's got this intake or flow or a little vent here that flows all down the side of this Civic Type R. Now take a look at this rear quarter. You see how it's bumped out to give it this stance? And I love that. But what I don't love is how the rims are inset. I wish they were offset a little bit more. But it does have my favorite tire. They're Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. These are 265, 30, 19, and they complement the car because this thing can stick. The tires, that is. This beautiful big wing may not be for you. They are sitting on this aluminum bracing and it's nice and high. Depending on your lifestyle and what type of person you are, you may want something a little bit more subtle like the carbon fiber wing on the Integra Type S. Now again, this is a hatchback, not a sedan style trunk. It also has a third brake light right here, the red Honda badge, the Civic right there, and of course, because it is a Type R, you get the Type R badging. Now everybody's gonna talk about this right here. You have a 3-outlet exhaust with a big guy in the middle and 2 little guys left and right. You have a button inside the car that you hit, it says Type R, and then it opens up the baffles so you can hear it. Front seat of the Type R. Oh, this is so nostalgic for me. The carpets say Type R. The seats are very retro. This reminds me exactly like all the Type R, Type S stuff after the Integra Type R. Like even the RSX Type S reminds me of this. It says Type R right there in the seat. This is Type R Civic number R00148, which means the 148th model. Now, let's start with the door panel. There is no memory seats. You have automatic windows in the front. You don't have them in the back. This has a Bose sound system. This doesn't have heads-up display. Well, wish it did, but it does have a cool little gauge that activates more sporty when I hit the plus R button, which stiffens up the steering and suspension, and then gives me this sort of heads-up display vibe, but in the driver's display, that's all digital. I do, of course, have non-digital stuff, which is only really the engine temperature, and on the right-hand side, the fuel gauge. Everything else in here is very Civic-like, because of course this is a Civic. This is exactly the same, nothing new. I do like the dials for the HVAC. That's all good Civic stuff, love it. Up top, the screen, not the biggest screen, but good enough for what this car really needs. It does have wireless CarPlay, which is what I use. And of course, one extra thing called the data logger. Yep, it gives you all your data when you're driving around, which is cool to see. Here are 2 more things that are really nostalgic for me, and that is the steering wheel. This steering wheel reminds me exactly of a JDM spec Integra Type R. This steering wheel is sick. I love it. I know it's slightly different in the middle, but this whole touch feeling reminds me of that steering wheel. And then of course the shifter. This shifter is very similar to an S2000. It's different than the Acura Type S, which is more of what the Integra had before. This one is an aluminum ball, and of course when the heat's sitting on it, it does get really hot to touch. I know that from experience in the S2000. Anyways, right here in the center console underneath, I do have 2 USBs. I have a wireless charger in the middle, and then a cigarette lighter that can do 1800 watts. And then next to the shifter, I have the Plus R, which again stiffens everything up, and then different drive modes. New for 2023 is individual. So you have Sport, Comfort, and now Individual. And then of course the Plus R, but Individual is new. And there you can adjust your engine, steering, suspension, engine sound, rev match, and then your gauges. You can do all that in your individual setting. Moving down from there, I have 2 decent sized cup holders and the same configuration as far as the armrest, like the Integra Type S. It doesn't go all the way up, so I don't have anything really place my elbow if I am sort of a middle sitter. If I sit a little bit to the left, then yeah, I can put my elbow right on this corner, which it is flared out to have my elbow. I wish it was a little bit wider. I am a pretty small guy, so for me it works, but anybody bigger than me, their elbows will probably swing from side to side. Do I have suede here to hold me down together? So all in all, it's a really good package of sitting together in my Civic Type R. Now you'll notice that in the back seat, the seats are black. They are not red. And that is more of a retro thing. Some of the older generation was exactly the same way. If you had a red interior, you got red seats in the front, red carpeting everywhere, red seat belts. But in the back, they were black. Now, this is a 4-seater and not a 5-seater, just like the Integra Type S. It's a 4-passenger. If you want a 5, you get the regular Integra, just like the Civic. You want a 5-pass, you get a regular Civic. Again, these seats are 60/40, you get red seat belts. Sitting back here, I do have a decent amount of room. Obviously, you can see I'm 5'9", I still got lots of headroom. The cool part about sitting back here is these seats say Type R on the back of it. It looks straight out of a video game the way this sort of font is. I love it. Super cool. So let's pop the trunk and see how much room we have with this Type R. Of course, it's not powered, it is manual. And as far as depth go, we've got 3 feet, that's 36 inches. And as far as width goes, we have about 45. That is really wide. Now the seats fold down 60/40, and you have this little tonneau cover that you simply just do one of these, and then it slides out of the way. Voila, you get a lot of room. Underneath here, when I lift it up, I don't have a spare tire, but I do have a tire kit. So I'm in a Civic Type R and I'm on the street. So we're gonna talk about a few different things. We're not gonna talk about exactly how much I can throw this car around corners. Of course, it does well. It's track ready. It weighs 3,200 pounds. Obviously, that is good enough to have fun with, and it makes 315 horsepower. So 69% of the weight is on the front end, but it still hooks really well. Sounds sick, man. Sounds so good. Doesn't feel boosted. It feels naturally aspirated. Yeah, like it's not like, look, it's not, it feels very Honda, which is exactly what I want. I just missed the VTEC sound, but listen. This is excellent. Magical, man, magical. So where I'm sitting at this height, I cannot see the actual shift point. So there's shift lights, I can't see them because the top of the steering wheel is blocking it, but I can hear, and it gives me a little beep when you're ready. So part of this video is to talk about the street ability of this Honda Civic Type R. Can you drive it every day? How's your back gonna feel? Well, if you're not used to suede seats, they will make you sweat a little bit. They're not really breathable. Even though they say it's breathable, I find that these suede seats don't really breathe very well, and my back is sweating. Just one thing to note. The other thing to note is it is a fairly firm ride, but that's to be expected, of course. This is a track-inspired vehicle. It's designed to be ripping around the track. But what about like the daily? When you put it in comfort, it does have, of course, damping suspension. So when I put it in comfort, it is smoother, it makes it more livable, and it's not bad. And for all my tuners out there, this is definitely upgradable. You can definitely push this red line a little bit further, throw a bigger turbo, tune it 100%. This thing is like not even being pushed to its limit whatsoever from an engine perspective. The transmission shifts pretty well. I'd say that the throws are short enough. Could they be shorter? A little bit shorter. I mean, the S2000 is still the best gearbox ever. Like, nobody makes a better gearbox than the S2000, hands down. Great gearbox. This is a little bit longer, so I feel like the synchros are a little bit softer, whereas the S2000, it's definitely more notchy. This is less notchy. This is more easier for somebody to get used to if they're not used to driving a manual car. The clutch is not like a S2000. It's more like an Integra. It definitely is, I wouldn't say looser, but I would say that it's not as immediate as an S2000. And honestly, for a Honda, this has really good bottom end torque. obviously because it's turbocharged, not naturally aspirated, but really good bottom end torque, but doesn't feel like a turbo though. It feels like I can't say a 6, but like a 6 would, I would say gives the same bottom end pull like a 6. So like when I'm at 25 RPM, foot to the ground in 4th gear, nothing, and now it's pulling. But it's good. It's not like, if this was naturally aspirated, we'd be going nowhere, absolutely. We're going absolutely nowhere. So they've kind of mixed it up. And when you turbocharge a 4-banger, I guess the VTEC gets drowned out, unfortunately. It's funny, every now and then I can hear the wastegate, which I could not hear in the Integra whatsoever. I really applaud Honda for having 2 vehicles, man. I love the fact that they have that Integra Type S, which is way easier to buy than this. Like, this is a tough car to get. Dealers are just gouging people on if you want this thing, and people that are buying one. Okay, so that bounce thing there, you don't get in the Integra. This is definitely way firmer. If you got a little bounce here, you're jumping and your back does take a bit of a beating. In arm, that was comfort? That was been a really bumpy bump, because in arm mode, I would have lost my back on that thing. So definitely stiffer, but just like way more fun. Way more fun. I'm gonna check the car market again and see what these things actually sell for. Like, what are people actually cutting checks for? I know people put crazy numbers. It's just like certain things, like there's not enough inventory, so they'll just put crazy numbers, but nobody really buys them, so they're gonna say, well, they're selling for this much money, but like, who's cutting checks? I'm interested. If you guys have actually gone to shop for one, please comment below. I wanna see what people have actually spent on one. Because this is, I mean, I wouldn't say collectors, that's a hard push, because people want to use this. Like, if you're buying this thing and you're collecting it, and you're being a collector and not driving it, honestly, don't. Because people like me wanna buy these cars and enjoy them. Instead of like, having to fork out like 20, 30, 40K over dealer just to get your hands on one of these things. It's a great car. Now, I wish it was a little bit lighter, and I wish that, yeah, that's about it. I just wish it was a little bit lighter. But then, comforts, man. Comforts of today. Like, we want all the toys. We want all the insulation. We want all this fun stuff. Yeah, Civic Type R, baby. Way more fun than Type S. The Type S is good. It is great. But it is not visceral like this. It's not nostalgic like this. The Integra has the name, but the Civic has the complete DNA. Damn, I didn't even script that thing. That was off the cuff, baby. Hope you guys like this video on this 2024 or 23 or wherever you can get your hands on this beautiful Civic Type R. There's no point in me talking about blind spot indicators and Apple CarPlay, because all I want to look at is this meter that tells me water temperature, oil pressure, exterior air temperature, intake air temperature, and boost pressure. Let's enjoy it and the rest of the sound in this video.